Hello and welcome to Meet Your Spirit Guides. You know, I've been having a chat. My guides have been telling me all about what we're going to talk about before this happened. I've just muted you for a minute, Yvonne, because that noise is still coming back. So if you want to say something, just click unmute and just unmute yourself. And yeah, they've been yapping in my head all about this for ages, actually. And as I said before, a friend came to me and said, can we get a group together in Sydney and do this like once a month and do this practicing? I used to teach this when I taught theta healing. One of the things we did was that we paired people up and they read each other. But here's the thing about this seminar. As much as I'm going to do that with you guys today, I've never done this on the internet before, so it's going to be interesting to see how it works on the internet. You don't really need to be physically in front of someone because, you know, there's no time and space. There's only the spacious now, and we can play inside the spacious now. But this is not really about reading other people. This is about knowing that you've got guidance for your own life. But reading other people gives you the confirmation that you're actually receiving something that is beyond your intellect. Do you know what I mean? Like it's coming from your guidance, it's coming from your spirit guides or their spirit guides, or it's coming from a broader perspective. And because here's the thing, we have this guidance with us all the time. But we pass it off as a big imagination, or we say, there's no way I could know that. That can't be true. So we just pass it off. And the thing about pairing people up and getting them to read each other is that when you say something to somebody and they confirm what you've said, you can't pass it off anymore. You can't say, oh, that's just my imagination. Or so that's the beauty of getting us together to really read each other. Because the best guidance that you'll ever have will come from your inner guidance. And it's there all the time, constantly, talking to you constantly. The thing about receiving the guidance is that you have to be a vibrational match to actually receive the guidance. So it's in those stressful times when you're confused, frustrated, worried, that you're not a vibrational match to your guidance and it's harder to receive. So it's in those times where you reach out for other people, you know, to give you guidance, or you read a book or watch a video, or, you know, when you have a burning question and you're not in the vibration of receiving the answers. When I was reading the books Conversation with God, 20 years ago, it was my first knowing that what I was receiving in my head was actually guidance talking to me, because the way that Neale Donald Walsch structured the books, he had Neale talking, and Neale has a big personality with a big ego, and he was like a naughty boy. He was a womanizer, and look, he just was, full of anger and hatred and resentment. So he was like perfectly normal, like most humans. And then there was God, who would speak. And so Neale would have these questions, but what, but why, but what about this, but what about that? And then God would answer. So there was these two distinctive voices. And really he was, calling God his inner guidance. It's all God. We're all God, right? We're all, as Yvonne says, we're all gods and goddesses, but we're gods and goddesses holding an ego. And it's that ego that trips us up all the time. Boy, does it trip us up. So it's great to have that connection to your God presence, or your higher self, or a broader perspective that you can go to at any time, any stage, any time. I have them constantly talking in my head. When do I not hear them? Well, obviously when I'm going through, well, actually while I was sick, they basically were very quiet. But at the same time, they were still telling me to not do anything, to not open the computer, to not work. They were saying just be still, and just let what's happening happen, because it was just a DNA upgrade. Basically, I hadn't been feeling well for a few months, and I kept thinking, I need to exercise. I need to eat better. I've got to stop eating dairy. I just kept, in my head, I just kept saying, I've got to do this. I've got to do that because I don't feel good. I just don't feel good. And I had this sort of chesty thing that was just sitting there and not really making me sick. It was just a little bit of like a just a tightness in my chest. And then one night I went to a documentary, which is a fabulous documentary launch called Inside Peace, which is put out by Prem Rawat. Does anyone know Prem Rawat? He is a spiritual teacher. I think he's Indian. He looks a bit Filipino. He's a bit of a mix. Anyway, he has a huge following. And he has a program called Inside Peace, which he takes into prisons and teaches prisoners to basically to connect to the divine, but he doesn't call it that, to find peace within their own mind. So I went to the launch of that, and I was walking to the car afterwards, and I just felt really dizzy and really shaky, and that was the beginning of this flu thing, which felt like every cell of my body just spewed. Like any toxins that were held in my cells just were spewed out into my system, which had me in pain for like days, just like flu pain, like just aching all over. But as much as it was horrible and disgusting, I knew that it was needed, that it was just all part of a shift, just like another DNA upgrade. It's happened to me 3 times before. And the thing about when you have these DNA upgrades and when you start your spiritual journey, when you start asking questions and you start saying, oh, I'd like to do that. Oh, I'd like to be a channel, or I'd like to be more connected to my guides, or anything that's in resistance that you're holding in your body, both mentally and physically, it comes up to the surface for you to let go of, because you can't actually let go of something that you don't know you're holding. So it sort of raises to the surface, and then there's that process of letting go and holding a new vibration, a different frequency. And sometimes that looks like sickness. Sometimes it looks like sickness, because sometimes we're just in resistance and we just don't let it go. And that's what happened to me recently. So I'm just getting back online now, but I feel significantly different, like significantly different. And as I say, it's happened to me a few times before. When I went to see John of God, about 18, 20 years ago, who's this Brazilian healer, he puts you in this current room where people are meditating, and current of people's meditation really shifts people's illness. But I was not ill. I was like in my early 30s. I was really healthy, or mid-30s, I think. And I still had this, I don't know, DNA upgrade. I don't really even know what to call it. But I felt like I was living inside a tunnel, and everyone was talking to me through this tunnel. It was like I was in this altered state of consciousness, and I could physically feel my energy body expanding. And when people walked through my energy field, it was like they were literally walking through my physical body, because our energy field is actually, because this clump that we're wearing, this physical clump, is actually an energy field. It's just a denser energy field. And then there is energy that exists beyond that, which is part of this energy field. And what most people do is they shut their energy fields down to protect themselves against, what they perceive to be something that they don't want, and they get angry at people. Anyway, and they kind of close it. And when you awaken spiritually, you actually expand your energy field. And the thing about expanding your energy field is that you become amazingly empathic. So that means you feel people more. It's, as I said, when people walk, I remember sitting in the current 20 years ago at John of God. Someone had put me as the first person as people entered this room. There were 2 rooms of people meditating. And as people were walking through, dripping their illnesses, I felt like I was being trampled. They were literally walking through my body, and I felt every pain these people had. I felt everything. And it freaked me out. And I just had to get out of that room and go and get away. But that's what happens when you expand your energy field. So doing all these lovely things like talking to your spirit guides and being psychic and all that is really beautiful. But we as human beings in this time-space reality, in this now, we're doing it inside a 3rd dimensional experience. So even though we live in a 3D world, there's still different frequency available here. There's like the 4D and the 5D. But in order to live inside 5D, you really need to give up a lot of the stuff that the ego holds on to. And that's like pride and separateness, identity, and mine and yours. And it's quite a ride. So when you do expand your energy field and you do have access to higher dimensional guidance, you're going to feel everything a lot more intensely. And that makes being out there in the 3D world a bit of a challenge unless you know how to meet that energy with love, basically. Unless you can watch somebody murdering a child, or some politician spewing rhetoric, or some racist person slurring. Unless you can watch all of that with love and acceptance, it's going to really knock you around. Do you know what I mean? Like if you have resistance against anything that's happening, like that's not right, that shouldn't be like that, that resistance really knocks you around when you expand your energy field. So I just wanted to, talk about that before we start to do this, because expanding your energy field so that you have brought up higher guidance is something that you need to take amazing responsibility for. Like you need to be really responsible for how you feel. And what happened to me when I was younger, and I was doing this in my 30s, when I'd go out to the shopping mall, if I hit a negative thought, like just a thought that wasn't really negative, like I can't decide what shoes to buy. I was buying some sneakers, sand shoes, what do you call them, joggers, runners or whatever. And I couldn't decide because I'm a pretty indecisive person when it comes to crap like that. And I started beating up on myself. Oh, get over it, Karen. It's just a bloody pair of shoes. Just pick one and just go. Don't make it such a big deal. Like I started criticizing myself, right? And inside that self-critical thought, my vibration lowered. So I went back out into the mall, having bought my sand shoes, and started to feel completely woozy, like I wanted to faint and vomit and everything all at the same time, right? And because I'd lowered my vibration, because I'd criticized myself, and now I have access to all that critical energy that's out there in the world. Do you know how critical people are? Actually, you said this, Yvonne.
Oh, yeah.
You said this, Yvonne, when you came back, you realized everyone's living inside fear. Even when the fear is like, will I buy those sand shoes or those sand shoes? Like, oh, fuck, I can't decide. It's like, it's no big deal. It's just a pair of shoes. Just pick one and be happy with it. But there's like this fear that we run all the time, like, well, what if this is too expensive? Fear about not having about enough money, but I'd really like those over there. There's fear running inside us all the time. So the 3D world is really based in limited fear-based consciousness, right? So when you expand your energy field and then you hit a fearful thought or a limiting thought or a self-critical thought or a judgmental or critical thought on anything that's happening inside this 3D world, you're now a vibrational match to meet that energy in a huge way. And sometimes it can be completely overwhelming. And I remember I said to my husband at the time, oh my God, please, like I was so dizzy. I just grabbed him, please take me home, take me home, take me home. And he looked at me and he said, get over it. And I said to myself, he's right. You know what? He's right. I can't be a victim to my own vibration. So he said, I'm going to go into Big W. I said, all right, I'm just going to sit here and get over it. And I sat on the chair outside Big W inside the mall, and I thought, right, I've been beating up on myself because I'm so indecisive. Let me find some better feeling thoughts. You know what? It's sale time. I love shopping when it's sale time. And, this mall has been renovated recently and it's looking pretty good. I really like the water feature, and there's some, new restaurants that I'd like. I just started the really mundane, stupid thoughts, but thoughts that were more positive. They were happier thoughts. And as I sat there thinking these better feeling thoughts, like, this is really cool, I'm really enjoying myself at sale time, and look at all these great people, and I started to raise my vibration. And by the time he came out of Big W, he looked at me, he said, you all right? I said, perfect. And I was good again. All the wooziness and like wanting to vomit and faint and everything had completely disappeared, because I'm responsible for my vibration. And that's what we've got to know when we start to expand our energy field. And this is something, I'm getting so passionate about this. This is something that people do not teach you when they teach you how to meditate or how to connect to your spirit guides or how to read people or how to be psychic. They don't teach you about the responsibility of your vibration. They teach you how to open your field, and then you go out into this super highway of third dimensional world. You're open and you're not cleaning up your thoughts. You're still running self-critical, limiting thoughts, right? You're still hating the neighbor that's pissing you off, and you're still criticizing this and criticizing that. And you're open, and it's like this stuff comes at you and you feel all of it, right? And when you feel it, it's completely overwhelming. That's why a lot of people who start their spiritual journeys like have breakdowns and, or breakthroughs, because they're not taught how to be responsible for their own vibration, which is literally just picking some better thoughts. People piss me off all the time, let me tell you. And then I get pissed off and I go, let me find some better thoughts. Like, what's good about this? Now, how is this serving me? What am I learning about myself? Because I'm responsible for how I feel. And as an empath, when I go out to the shopping center, if I go out pissed off, man, I am having a really bad time. You know what I mean? It's like I'm in a storm, just being knocked around by the weather. But if I raise my vibration before I go out, I can live inside this 3D world and be happy and be good and not feel victimized because I'm sensitive. And I get this all the time with people. They say, I'm so sensitive. I can't live in this harsh world because I'm so sensitive. But you know what? Yeah, we're sensitive. And this is the new human. This is where we're going. We have to develop our empathic abilities, because as a human race, we have to know how the other people feels so that we understand that we're connected and we understand we're one. And when we understand, when we know that viscerally, when we feel that, when we're in a room with people and we feel like one with that person, it's like you are me and I am you. When you feel that, when you know that, you stop criticizing people, you stop hurting people, war stops on this planet, corruption stops, lies stop. And as a human race, this is where we're going. But when we develop that sense of empathy plus unconditional love and unconditional radical acceptance, you hold an energy field that's so huge. This is what the gurus or the saints hold. They hold an energy field that is so huge that you impact everywhere you go and you impact everyone that you come in contact with. And it's such a blessing to the shift, really, the upliftment of humanity. So